Imagine this. You are abandoned on a barren island, not because of a shipwreck, not because of fate, but because the very man entrusted to protect you decided to cast you away. No rescue, no forgiveness, just punishment. This is a true story of Marguerite de La Rocque, a young French noblewoman exiled for love, abandoned on the dreaded Isle of Demons, and left to die. But she did not die. For nearly 2 years, she fought wilderness, starvation, and madness itself. And somehow she endured. To understand her fate, you must first step into 16th century France. It was an age ruled by faith and reputation. The Catholic Church governed morality. And for women, especially women of noble blood, chastity was not simply personal. It was family honor. A single scandal could stain an entire house, undoing generations of power. Marguerite de La Rocque was young, educated, of noble blood, a woman of property who owned lands in Périgord and Languedoc, even holding the title of co-seigneuress of Pontpoint. She sailed to New France under the guardianship of her powerful relative, Jean-François de La Rocque, Lord of Roberval. Roberval was no ordinary man. He was the king's chosen commander, tasked with proving France's strength across the Atlantic. His authority was absolute and fragile. A whisper of scandal under his command could undermine him in the eyes of the crown and the church alike. And so, when Marguerite fell in love during that voyage, whether it was soldier or a nobleman, no one can say for certain. It was not merely a family indiscretion. To Roberval, it was treason against his authority, a threat to his honor and his mission. When his fleet reached the icy Gulf of St. Lawrence, he made his judgment. Marguerite, her lover, and her maidservant were cast ashore. Their prison? A forested, wind-swept island sailors whispered about in fear. The Isle of Demons, a place of howling winds, eerie cries, and whispered legends of spirits that tormented the stranded. Whether superstition or merely the voice of the storm, the name alone froze the blood of sailors. At first, the three clung to hope. They built a crude hut from branches, kept a fire alive with driftwood, hunted seabirds with the musket Roberval had left them. For a short time, they believed their exile was temporary, but the island was merciless. The sea battered the rocks day and night. The forest moaned with every wind, and in darkness, cries echoed, wolves or worse. Then winter came, and with it, despair. Food dwindled, their bodies weakened, and Marguerite revealed what she had hidden until then. She was with child. Her lover tried to fight for her, but sickness and hunger devoured him. She watched as a man she had defied the world for collapsed into weakness and died in her arms. Her maidservant followed soon after, leaving Marguerite alone and carrying life inside her. The Isle of Demons had claimed her companions. Now it waited for her. Picture it. The wind knifes through your clothing. Snow buries your hut until only the roof is visible. You wake shivering violently, frost clinging to your lashes, wondering if the fire will survive the night. This was Marguerite's world. The musket became her lifeline until the powder ran dry. After that, it was only a club. She hunted seabirds for eggs, snared rabbits, and waited by tidal pools with sharpened sticks. Every meal was uncertain, every bite earned with pain. When streams froze, she chipped ice with numb hands, melting in her mouth. Her clothing decayed, and she stitched scraps of hide into crude garments, the smell of smoke and blood forever on her skin. Once, when starvation loomed, she boiled leather to chew. Once, when a bear came for her shelter, she faced it with only her musket as a club. By some miracle, she killed it and wrapped its hide around her body, turning its cave into a refuge. But the greater battle was silence. At night, the island screamed, wolves, storms, voices on the wind. Were they demons, or her mind frayed into madness? Marguerite answered the silence with defiance. She prayed aloud, sang songs half remembered, spoke stories into the dark, so the void would not consume her. She carved her name into bark, scratched symbols into stone, proof that she lived, that she would not be erased. And then, in the dead of winter, her time came. She gave birth alone in her hut, with the wind howling like demons outside. For a few precious days, she held her child, her last connection to love and hope. But the island claimed the infant, too. The tiny life withered in her arms, and she buried it with frozen hands. Yet even then, Marguerite endured, season after season, nearly 2 years. Marguerite's survival was not mere instinct. It was rebellion. Roberval had cast her out to destroy her, to reduce her to a warning. But every fire she kindled, every animal she trapped, every mark she carved into stone was a refusal. She would not vanish. Her skin grew weathered, her hands scarred, her body gaunt. But still she lived, until one day sails appeared. Basque fishermen, landing for supplies, found her. At first, they must have thought they'd seen a ghost, a noblewoman ragged with hides and scars, standing where none should have survived. But she was real, and she was alive. They carried her back to France. As for Roberval, the man who condemned her, his colonial venture collapsed. He faced accusations of heresy. He died violently on the streets of Paris. History itself delivered judgment on the judge. Back in France, Marguerite's story spread quickly. Some whispered scandal, that she had been punished justly, spared only by God's mercy. Others spoke with awe, that she had endured more than any man could have. Her survival was recorded by André the Vet, who interviewed her personally. It echoed in chronicles, and most famously in Queen Marguerite of Navarre's Heptameron. Through their words, her ordeal lived on, preserved not in monuments but in testimony. And Marguerite herself did not retreat into silence. She became a teacher. She passed on knowledge, shaping the minds of the next generation. Cast out for love, she returned as someone who gave others strength, a quiet act of defiance greater than Roberval could ever imagine. For centuries, her tale lingered in the margins of history, but it was never erased. Marguerite de La Rocque's exile was designed to break her. Instead, it revealed her. On the Isle of Demons, she survived starvation, freezing winters, the torment of silence, and the collapse of all she once knew. She endured when her lover died, when her maidservant passed, when her own child was taken from her. And in that endurance, she became more than a victim. She became a survivor. She was abandoned for love, meant to vanish. Instead, she lived for love, and because of that, she could never be erased. Her story is a reminder. Survival is not simply the absence of death. It is the will to live when all the world conspires against you. This is her forgotten history. And if you want to hear more of the survival stories the world tried to bury, the tales of human resilience that prove just how far we can be pushed, follow this channel, because the next story may be even harder to believe